Vanakkam, Fred.
Hello, Ashwini.
How are you?
I'm very fine, and you?
Yeah, very fine. Fred, could you tell me about yourself and your background in brief?
In brief, I'm a French writer. I was born some time ago in south of France, and I'm living in India since 1990, so 32 years now. And in my heart, I feel both as Indian and French. I'm a kind of hybrid combination.
Fred, what inspired you to become a writer?
I come from a bookseller family. My father was having a bookshop. My mother was working in the bookshop. They were working together. My great auntie was also having a bookshop in France. My sister was a librarian. And I grew up in books. If you want, in my home house, you cannot see the walls. It's only covered by books.
Oh.
So I was into that, but I have no writers in my family. But I think it's from my great auntie who was having this bookshop that I became a writer, mostly because of her. Because when we were kids, she used to come like twice a year. And when she was there, when we went to visit her, she will tell us, we were 3 kids, I have 2 sisters, and she will tell us endless stories that she will improvise, and long stories. So every day, first
She
thing in the
continues.
morning, we knock her door, and then she will sit and we are around her, and she will tell, and she had a story for me and a story for my sisters, boys and girls. So she will say, so what was the last scene yesterday? And we remind her, I say, oh yes, and she will go on endlessly, and it was so awesome. So maybe, and then at the age of maybe 16, I started to write everywhere. I always have a book note in my pocket, and every time I always have some inspiration, so I will write it, and it will go for 5 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages, small book notes. It was even difficult in the work because whether I lose it and I was a salesman in a bookshop also, and otherwise I'll just sneak out for 5 minutes, try then come back.
And then come back to the work.
And finally, I told them, sorry, I cannot continue like this. And at that time, very luckily, one friend of my parents, he had a small house in the mountain, in the forest, totally isolated. And he said, I'm not using it, so if you want, you can stay there. So I stayed for 1.5 years with my dog totally alone in the forest mountain. And that's the ideal condition to write. So I was writing.
Wow, fantastic. Fred, how long you have been writing? When did you start writing stories?
I started at 16. But let's say seriously, I started after I left school. I was 19. At 19, because with the school I was also having 2 jobs, to make a living, and so I was half the time I was in the school, half the time I was working in the shop. At that time it was before the bookshop, so it was a toy shop actually. And I have a passion, I love horses. But it's very expensive. So the weekend I was working in a stable to take care of the horses, clean and build the fence, all these things. And in exchange, I was having a low wages, but in exchange, I had 1 horse, and only me was riding this horse. So every day, instead of lunch, I was going there and ride for 1 hour.
Wow.
And so I was very busy, and when I left school, then the school job was gone, so I had only 2 jobs at that time. And I started to write there very seriously. I wrote a big novel that I didn't finish. That was just the beginning. I wrote a theater play, and I wrote a lot of poetry. It was not to be published at that time, because it was really, I was just learning, but I showed it to big writers in France, who really encouraged me to continue, because it's you cannot judge your own work, you know. If you do it, that means you think it's good, but you don't know, to say the truth. So they really encouraged me to continue. My auntie also was a very, how to say, literate person. She loved it. Everybody who loved my work loved it. So then I wanted to go for a real novel, to write a real novel, but for that you need 1 year. And I mean, it's the average. You ask any writer, a small novel, 200 pages, it's 1 year. Because you write the first, and you rewrite until it's exactly as good as you can do. And so I needed the condition, and the condition was given by this friend, you know. He said, you can stay 1.5 years, so what else did I need? So there I was, like, it was average. I mean, it was 10 to 12 hours a day, and sometimes 14 hours, you know, because you're in the flow and you don't want to stop, because if you stop, you lose. As long as it's coming, you know, you have to.
Right. Can you tell me about your journey to India? Which year, when you came to India first time? Your experience in India?
First time I came, it was not at all my plan. For me, India was on a different planet. I didn't know anything about India. At that time, to tell you the truth, I was heading to Africa, because I was associated with artists from Africa, from Chad. And we were having a studio in the West Indies, and we were doing exhibition from island to island, you know, and very successful. Most of the time we'll have the first prize. Only once we got the second prize. So we were doing really, really good. But, you know, an island, after a while, you know, you turn in circle, you know, it's like, so I know some people love it, but for us it was a little confined. And so his wish was to go to Chad and open a cultural center there. So we tried that.
Where?
But in Chad, that's in Western Africa. You know, you have Chad, Cameroon, and its country was a huge culture. I mean, that's Chad. Africa is near to France, so you know, I had a lot of African friends when I was in France, and so I said, okay, I want to do it. And unfortunately, there were a war in Chad, with the French. You know, it was very tough. And finally it was just the end of the war when we were planning that, but we couldn't have the authorization. They didn't allow us to do that. So at that time, my girlfriend, my fiancée, was studying Bharatanatyam in Kalakshetra in Madras. At that time it was called Madras in 90.
She came all the way to Chennai, India, Tamil Nadu, and she was learning.
Because she was a professional dancer, and one day she found this article on Kalakshetra, and she said, I want to go there, and she did. So she was she was studying there, and her plan was to join us after in Chad. But as we couldn't go in Chad, then I joined her there, and I arrived in Madras, not knowing, you know, what I have to expect. And you know, I was like, I will see, it's an adventure, so you like it or not. And I think India, everybody likes it or doesn't like it. Nobody is you know, indifferent. So, and what was really amazing for me is that when the plane landed, and it was very strong. And I remember, you know, it was exactly like that. Even before I left the plane, you know, I was in the plane. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to expect. And suddenly the door opened, the air, the atmosphere come inside. And, you know, suddenly I have this, it's more than a feeling, is that I know that I'm back home. I know that I was there before, and I know that I'm back home. And, you know, you have a lot of people who had this experience in India. You know, they came in India. That was the 15th May of 1990. And I met after that quite a few people who had the same experience. You know, they came and they felt like I've been here before. After whether it's delusional or not, I don't think so personally, but you know, we never, this is the kind of thing you cannot really explain or, you know, put in detail. It just happened.
Okay. Good. It was a good experience.
Yeah, and immediately I was sure that I will spend my life here.
You decided at that moment.
No, I didn't decide. It came to me. You know, I had suddenly I know. And now I've been here 32 years, and I may be one of, I don't know if I should say this, but one of the very few foreigners who have been so long in India and never wondered even for a second, what am I doing here? You know? So for me, there were no question, you know, as long as I've been tolerated in India, then, you know, I didn't want to go somewhere else. And I'm not a big traveler also. I'm happy wherever I am. When I'm somewhere, you know, somebody has to pull me out to... But I travel a lot in India because I worked also for the movies and as an art director, so I was doing a lot of location. I'm also for yoga seminars, you know, I've always been extremely interested by spirituality. So I went to a lot of seminars all over the country. So I traveled a lot in India. But mostly I was based in the south.
Oh.
Yeah.
What are your hobbies and interests out of your work and writing?
First interest is art. Whether it's books, painting, I've been also a painter at a period of my life, or sculpture, movies, you know, not all the movies, not all the books, you know, but when it is a piece of art, then for me it's something divine, you know. For me, the artist is just the canal. But if you have an inspiration, good enough inspiration to make what you can really call art with a big A, it's something coming from above. I really feel like this, and I'm not the only one, far from that. Paintings, yes. Music, I love music. So I've been a painter, I've been a writer. I mean, I am a writer, I've always been a writer. But music, unfortunately, I don't play any instrument, but I love to listen to music, and I have a good ear, you know. I can, if there is something wrong, you know, I can spot it. Otherwise, I was telling horses. I love horses. I've been riding 10 years, more than 10 years. Maybe 14 years after. When I left France, I couldn't continue, but it's still in my heart, and the connection with the horse.
Wow.
And I've been lucky, after 10 years of riding, I've been lucky enough to be admitted in the best school in the world, which is called the Cadre Noir in French, in France. And there I thought I was a good rider when I arrived there, but I understood, no, that's my mistake. But you know, I learned so much there, and you reach one connection with the horse that you really become one with the horse, and he will give you everything he has, and you will love him also. And you know, at that point, you are on the horse. At that level, you are on the horse. You don't need to move. He will read. You know, you think something, and he will do it. It's just it's beyond, you know, anything you can express. It's an experience, you know, and you dancing with the horse. That's beautiful. So yeah, horse is also, I can say it's an art, and you can progress all your life. It's never finished. And then apart from that, my father was he was one of the best specialists in the world in geopolitics. He was also extremely literate. But for him, it was not. For me, it's more literature. For him, you know, it was most geopolitics, all that, and that was his job. His bookshop was specialized into that. He was working a lot for the, I mean, mostly he was working for the Eastern Europe. You know, what we called USSR at that time, all these countries, Russia, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Romania, you know. And so he was working with them, it was during the USSR, so you had what they called the Iron Curtain, but he was able to pass the books, I think mostly because they were in French. So he was working with the intellectuals there, the writers, journalists, and university teachers mostly, to provide something to them, because nothing was available there. You know, they didn't know what was going outside. So he had this channel, and he could send books to them, and they were, you know, we were receiving always, when I was kid, letters, gifts, you know, small gift. some newspaper we couldn't read, but and letters, they were so grateful to them. 10 years after he died when I was 15, but 10 years later I was in France, and people were still trying to call, to thank him, because the Iron Curtain was still there at that time. No, that was after the Iron Curtain. Before they couldn't call, but after they started to call and said, "What happened to your father?" So and so I was telling, sorry, he passed away. And so the last call I had, these people speak French, very good French, because French was actually the second language in Russia historically. So they, that man told me, if I remember, he was a university teacher, and he told me, I could feel the tears in his eyes, and he said, "You have no idea what your father represented to us during all these years. He was like he opened our horizon, and we owe him so much." So I'm very grateful that I had such a father. So because of that, coming to the question,
yes.
I'm also interested into geopolitics. Not too much into politics. I see politics through the prism of geopolitics, if you want. Means the world picture, the global picture. So I'm studying that for my own interest, and also I believe it's important to know what is really going on in this world.
Yes.
Because sometimes we can wonder. I mean, when I say sometime, as the British say. And so I studied that a lot also. I don't know if I can call it a passion, but it's a big interest. And also I'm interested into astrophysics. I'm interested into, but just as, not as a professional, of course, but, I read and I listen to the great astrophysicians and science in general. I'm very interested also by natural medicine, whether it's homeopathy, Ayurveda, Sita, all these things, naturopathy also. I have a lot of doctors, friends, good friends. Nature, I love nature. Wild nature, forest, mountain.
Travel in the forest.
Yeah, walking in nature. I'm not a city guy. I grew up in the wild. It was not wild, but in the countryside, like deep countryside. All my youth till when I left, means for my first 20 years. It's a very good thing to not to be focused on only one subject, but to try to have the widest vision of our world, civilizations, you name it. And it helps also to understand, because if you're focused, let's say, for instance, a doctor who is not focused on psychology, something will be missing, you understand? So it's something like that. So psychology, also psychology, philosophy, I can go on. Some subject also don't interest me. Okay. Not interested into too much into like a lot of people they love cars, they love bikes. For me, it's just transportation. Me, it's horses. It has to be linked to nature.
Okay. Interesting. Nice to hear from you about all your interests and hobbies. And let's come back to horse. When we are discussing about one time, you are sharing your experience. During some plays you were there, and people don't really what do you say, that they won't believe that you will ride a horse, and that moment you took a horse and then you went. Could you share that experience? It was very nice when you were sharing to me last time.
Yeah, it's because
what happened that time?
Well, it happened many times, but we were shooting a movie in I think it was in Karnataka, and there were this scene where there is a horse charge, and you have to start from the big hill and go full speed down, and so it's also dangerous. And I told the director, I'm a good rider, I can. And he was, because everybody said, when somebody said, I'm really good, you're like, because usually people who are good, they are very low profile, right? But me, I don't say to be proud, and I'm not proud because, you know, it's because I had this chance to learn in the best school in the world, literally.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, it's not a joke, but I'm telling it casually. I'm not telling, you know, I'm the best. I'm just saying, you know, I'm a very good writer, that's all. So he was, yeah, we'll see. And when we had to shoot this scene, so there were, I think, something like 30, about 30 horses and horsemen. And he said, okay, if you're so good, take a horse and show us. So I went with them and we started. And then he said, you know, then when it's finished, he said, my God, you're a really good rider. I said, yeah, I told you. Sorry. But it's always like this. It's normal. You cannot, you know, you have to prove. Telling is not enough because it's too easy. You know, I'm the best, this, that. But not that I'm the best. But, you know, even people say, I'm the best this, I'm the best that. Okay, prove it. And usually you're disappointed. So out of experience, you know, especially in these field movies, you know, everybody believes that is the big shot.
You have to do in action. Yes.
You have to show.
How many books you have written, and which is your favorite book?
It depends what you call books, because by nature I cannot do twice the same thing. So all my books are very different. So I have novels, I have novels happening in the past, novels happening in the future, but you cannot call it history and you cannot call it science fiction also. I wrote plays, I wrote screenplays for movies, I wrote poetry collection, and all together I think it's about 14 or 15 books. But in that, you know, I include the first novel, for instance, which is not worth being published because it's my first novel. You know, I was just learning how it works and all. Even though I had I should say, very big compliments, you know, on that. But I mean, very good critics, very good critics. But I mean, incredible. I had one critic, it really touched me. It was like, yeah, I should really continue. I can continue in that, you know, I'm not wasting my time. But it's not, I consider it as a book because it's the same amount of work, but it was very personal, and I don't think it will be published at least as long as I'm alive. But otherwise, I wrote, for me, my best book is just there, the manuscript. It's a book of 1,000 pages. And I think this is by far my main book, my first book. But unfortunately, so that's a book happening a little bit in the future. And it's a book happening in France. And it's not at all about politics, but politics is involved into it. It's the story of an actor. The top class actor in France, you know, top 10, he's first on the top 10. What happened? So I finished the first draft, 1,000 pages. It took me like, let's say, maybe 3 years.
3 years
of big work, for the first draft. And then I started the second draft. So first draft I write by hand, and then I started to type it. I had already 300 something pages. And one of the important thing in the book, not in terms of number of pages, but the importance it had, was that France was what it was historically, means it was an independent country, and it was not in NATO. There is, I will not go in details into that, but there is historically, you know, we have been in NATO after the Second World War when it was created. And in, I think it was in the mid-50s, or second, maybe 66, 67, I don't remember exactly when it happened. The leader we had at that time, Charles de Gaulle, withdrew France from NATO. And France since then had independence enough to, you know, count in the history of the world, in the, you know, what is happening in the world. It was not, I will not say, you know, he will make the balance between the two parties, something like that. So he withdrew France from NATO. It was not easy, but he could do it because also he was one of the main characters of the Second World War with Churchill and, you know, Roosevelt, all these people. And so that was one of the very important underground aspect of the book, because this guy, being a big actor, of course, he is approached by ministers, this, that, and I'm not going to tell the whole story, but it was counting that it was not in NATO. And while I was typing, I had 1/3 of the second draft already finished. Suddenly, the man who was at that time the president of France, and I tried to forget his name, he put back France into NATO without asking anybody, and he did it in like this. And apart from all the problem it has been creating since then, then my novel was outdated. At that time it was outdated. I thought that no, it's lost. The whole thing is lost. And now I'm reconsidering it because the situation have changed a lot, and so I'm thinking of actually completing the work.
So you want to try to change the NATO portion, something different? And
no, because I wrote this from 2002 to 2007, first draft and this part of the second draft. And but the story was happening it was in the future. It was happening in 2030 something. So it's not science fiction, but it's not realistic at all, because a lot of things I imagine that what will happen in 25 years, a lot of things actually happened. Including, for instance, this watch, the computer watch. At that time, nobody talked about that, but the people were having this watch, in my book. So I've been, because it will be really difficult to change that, because it implies a lot of action in the book, and I have to rewrite the whole thing and in a different way. It will be something different, so I can do something else. But now I'm reconsidering, and I think it could be a good idea, to finish that.
Sure, because you spend more than 3 years and then a lot of time, and so
but that's not an argument. You can spend 10 years and it can be not good, or it can be something happened, or like so many things can happen. We don't know. I think it's if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Orson Welles who did this movie Citizen Kane. I'm not sure it's Orson Welles, but it was supposed to be released in '63, and the day of the release, Kennedy was assassinated. So nobody saw the movie, and it was a flop. And since then, it's considered in all the film schools, it's considered that the masterpiece of all time. But at that time, it was a flop. I think I'm not completely sure, but Citizen Kane, something happened, and I think, and one movie, it was the day Kennedy was shot. So I think it was Citizen Kane, I'm not sure.
Okay. So any of that particular, your novel, you will just publish it?
Soon, no, because it's a big work, I started, but I need maybe at least 1 more year, maybe 2 more years to complete it.
Okay.
Yeah, but it might happen.
Yes.
We'll see. Time will
very
tell.
Interesting. Yeah. Where did you get your inspiration to write books?
Inspiration, I get it from within and from the surrounding, whatever. I can be wherever I love the inspiration. Now to write I need peace also, so for that matter I like to be in the forest. But it's, the inspiration, I would say, is experience of life. But you have 2 different schools in writing as well as in painting. So I like to take the example of painting to make it more clear. You have the painter who is drawing the character, drawing the figures first, and then putting the colors. So he will make a very precise drawing, like for instance Michelangelo or Ingres in France, or Raphael during the Renaissance, all that. They were mostly painting like that. That's not my favorite, because I think the character is too stuck, life is missing somehow. I'm not talking about Michelangelo who was the master, but but the second school is to start the novel and you don't know at all where you are going. No, to start with the painting. To start the painting, you start with a splash, and out of that you'll build your figures and etc. And the life will come out, you know, and the colors and that. And that's more Delacroix was painting like that. Rembrandt was painting like that, and that's my favorite. And his books is the same. You have the writer who put all his plan first, you know, this will happen and this will happen and this will happen, and when he has all the story, he will start writing. But you have the same contradiction there. It's, you know already what's going to happen, so you miss the spark of life somehow, whether you like it or not. So you take, for instance, Victor Hugo. He was a great writer, and you know, I don't want to say he missed he missed the spark of life, but he missed one spark, which is that when you live, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know where you're going. You know, so Victor Hugo was working like that, and for instance, Stendhal in France was not working like that. Dostoevsky was not working like that. Stendhal and Dostoevsky, they were starting with an idea, you know, something, it happened. It can be anything, you know. For instance, in The Idiot, Dostoevsky started with a scene in the train, and you have a man is smoking a cigar, and in front of him there is a woman who is holding a small dog on her laps, and the dog is like this, and the man is telling the woman is telling the man, please throw your cigar, and the man is not listening, he's smoking his cigar. So the woman take the cigar and throw the cigar by the window, and the man take the dog and throw the dog by the window. So that's the opening of The Idiot. But he didn't know where it was going. You know, you have an idea, you want to show this, you want to, you know, this, that, but you're building slowly. And it's like in life, you know, one character will arrive, but you didn't know maybe the day before that this character will be there, you know. So you write as you live. And so it has always been my favorite, and I've always done like this, I mean, naturally, without even asking the question. But the difficulty with this method is that, you know, if your work, for instance, you write 200 pages, and after 200 pages you realize that no, it's not good, there is too many contradictions, no, I missed it, you know. Like, for instance, you do a painting, sometimes it's not good, you throw it. So if you do it with a book, a painting, okay, you start, it will take, you know, a few days. But a book, it can be 6 months of hard work, like 10 hours a day, and it can be 1 year of hard work, you know. If you go, like, for instance, this one, you know, it's 500 pages, it took me 5 years altogether. So, because I rewrote this book 7 times, I think.
Oh, 7 times, 7 versions.
7 version. Not that I changed the story, but you know, the story is there, and I polish the style, you know, and I change some detail, I remove some detail, I put, I mean, some events, you know, I can add something which will be useful. I rework it, let's say. Okay. So altogether it took me 5 years and 500 pages. So, but for the first copy it was 8 months. So imagine after 6 months I'm there, and no, because it's very easy to start. The difficulty is the ending, because you need to close the circle.
Yes.
But if you start and it's going like this, you know, forget about it. It has to be, you know,
conclude.
Yeah, it's like an egg. If the egg is broken, then the bird will not be born. The bird will die, you know. Something like that with books. And it's not very difficult to miss it, you know, so you take a risk.
Yes. It's interesting because without knowing the destination, to your flow, you are writing and then forming a story and with a conclusion.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
And everything is inspiring, you know, you meet someone, you see something, you know, and you will use it. You're like, one day I saw one painter here, he was coming from the village. At that time he used to come every year. I think the whole village was living with his work. What he did, the time I saw him, he was on the wall, you know, near the railway tracks there. He comes with a bag with some vivid colors, and he will, for the rest, he will use the earth which is there, some black stone, some, whatever is there he will use. And he started a fresco, but it was like, I don't know, 4 meters by 2 meters.
Ooh.
Big, and he looked a little bit mad, he was like this, and I was going on my bike, and I saw that, I stopped, and I'm also a painter. I said, this guy is a genius, the way he builds his thing, etc. And then he continued, and more people stopped, and at the end, at that time Pondy was not what it is today, it was a limited crowd there, not many people, streets were peaceful, empty and all. And the crowd started, everybody stopped, everybody was passing by, stopped and looked, it was so, and the show he made with all that. And at some time he will take from his bag some blue, some red that was not available, some white, sharks, whatever, he had all kind of different things. And in the middle of the process, he has put one bag, and he didn't say anything, but just to tell, if you want to give something, you're welcome. And at the end, I'm telling you, the bag was full of money, of money. I think only once a year he came, and the whole village can, finance itself with that.
Interesting.
And I've never seen him after that, unfortunately. But Pondy changed, it became touristic, and they built that big road, and, it became something else.
Is the painting still there?
No, because it's with earth, with shark, and also first rain, it will go. You could see for a few months, you could see, and rain after rain. When the monsoon came, the whole thing was washed out, unfortunately. But, it's a concept of art also, the ephemeral art. Like, for instance, I had a friend, he was in Kathmandu, he was my father age. He came in Kathmandu after the Second World War. He was one of the first to bring people on the Everest because he was a mountain guy. And at one point, he was doing sculpture on ice to learn the sense of ephemer, short life. You say short life, not ephemer is French. So he was sculpting on ice, which is, but very elaborate sculptures.
Interesting. So without any planning, just how the life flows, how the river flows, the story goes like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, when the bird is singing. It's actually the nature, which is the universe, who is expressing itself through the bird. And I believe when an artist is working, it's also the universe who is expressing. They choose. Of course, there is how to say, karma is involved also, I believe, but the universe will choose someone to, and it's not, it doesn't have to be, very educated people, one of my favorite writer in France, he was a very simple person. He never knew his father because his father was killed during the First World War, and his mother was a maid. And he started to buy this, he loved reading, and he started to buy, when he got like 12 years old or 14 years old, these very, very cheap books, they will sell, low quality, but all the classics, and mostly the Greek classics, the Greek theater, and the tragedies, and Homer, and Aeschyle, and Sophocles, and all these writers, and philosophers, Socrates, Plato, all that. So he was reading that only. And then he wrote one first book was based on actually Homer, the Iliad and Odysseus. And the story, imagine that is very funny story actually, that Odysseus is coming from Troy and is lost in the tempest, but actually what happened is after the war he didn't want to, he was not too keen to go back home and start again to rule the island and go there with all the problems. So he started to travel from city and parties with his men, in Mediterranean you have beautiful wine, so he was enjoying the wine. And one day he's in the island, and people out there, from other parts, travelers, sailors and all, and they made a fire, and everybody's telling his story, and they ask him, what is your story? he created the story of Iliad, you know, the war, no, the Odyssey. Means, you know, I've been to this island, there were a wizard, and in this there were the Cyclops, you know, and in this there were these witches, and, you know, and he invented the whole thing to, you know, okay, we are telling stories, I'll tell you a story, but nothing happened. But the people there, they loved the story, and they started to tell everybody, you know, and it went to the ear of his wife. So he was very embarrassed, because now everybody believed that that really happened to him. So he made this novel, and it was successful, and he continued, and then, okay, after that he got enough money to buy books, So, but he started like that, you know. And I know people who are extremely illiterate. They went to big schools, big university, they read so many books, but they want to be writers, and they cannot, because they don't know what to write, you know. So there are no rules.
Okay. So for writing, need experience, life experience, and travel and observations.
You need life experience. You need, I think the first thing you need is the sensitivity. And the sensitivity, it's not in school you will learn. You know,
from nature.
Yeah, on the contrary, in school you learn the theories, and with all the theories at the end, somehow I feel that you don't even know what you're believing yourself. You know, if you study too much.
Yes.
Everything is a matter of balance, I believe. Of course, everybody has his own. You can disagree, but that's what I really believe.
Okay. Where can the readers purchase your book?
Well, right now it's published on Amazon. So that's.
What are the titles of the books?
So one is The Parliament of Rivers, this book. And one is called, actually this is I wrote it in French, Rêver d'étoiles, but this book is the only one I have that has been also, because this is in French, right? But this one have been translated into English, so that's the English translation.
The Shine.
The Shine.
We can purchase from Amazon.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's the most worldwide, and I know that it's not helping the small editors, but the problem with the small editors, you know, is that it's very difficult for them to invest, you know, into a book and all that. So the good thing in Amazon is, I mean, in this kind of platform, you have also Kobo, CreateSpace, others. The good thing is that you do all the work yourself, as you like, you know, you do your own jacket, you do your own presentation, you do your own
theater. Works.
Yeah, no. So and the book you do it. Nobody is telling you no. You should remove this. You should add that, etc. So even though I never had this problem with publishers, they never asked me to. They never said no. This is not good. But yeah. So you're the. You know, it's your baby. You know, nobody else was into it. I'm not telling it's not good. You know, to work with, but being also a writer. And having this also sense of graphism, so I could do everything. And also one thing, you know, which is sad actually, because I know Amazon is taking all the market, but if you publish with a publisher, you'll have a very low percentage, you know, it can be 5%, 6% only. And with Amazon, I mean, with this platform Kobo, and I'm planning to publish on Kobo also when I have the time to do that, because it's a big work. But you know, you'll have a decent percentage. The writer is not forgotten, and I'm not blaming publishers. You know, I know how it is, and I know the cost of having a publishing house and all that. But for the writer himself, it's very difficult to survive. You know, so yeah, it's how to say. In this world, we have to compromise, and as a writer, I didn't find any other way to survive, to continue to write.
Okay, you were not keeping the books in any bookshops in France or in India?
I did for a while, for a few years. I did. It was doing good, but then, you know, it's difficult for a writer to take care of the marketing as well. You know, it's two different set of mind. So yeah, there it's available worldwide, and that for a writer is very good. Now that, it became like a monopoly, I don't think it's a good idea. But anyhow, publishing my book is not making a difference. So
Okay. Tell us when the first book was published and what was the response from the readers?
well, you see, at the beginning it was this book, The Parliament of River. And I didn't want to take the risk to publish 1,000 copies, which what is usually you do with printer. And also I was having very limited money at that time, so I was publishing by Xerox. I will print in Xerox, I will do the binding myself, coming from bookseller family, I'm so familiar with books, so that was not an issue. And so I published it, and a very low sale. I put it in some shops. Very low sale, like 50 books every year or every 6 months. In 6 months I will sell the 50. And because it's not that I'm not good in marketing, it's that I'm not able to do my own marketing. I cannot tell my book is, you have to read it. It's so good and this, that, etc. Whether it's true or not, but I cannot do that. Some people can do even if it's not true, but me, it seems that it's true because the feedback I had, but I cannot do that. So it went like this for 2 years. So, but without any marketing, I cannot. But to market my friends, I'm very good. To market my own work, I cannot. I'm like,
all the artists are like that.
I know.
They won't market themselves.
Yeah, that's the paradox. And then one day, after 2 years, one lady, she was traveling in India. She was university teacher in Vancouver, in Canada. And she was a big celebrity in Canada because she was giving she was restless, and she was giving conferences all over the country. Canada is a very big country, including in the States, if I remember. And so there she was. She didn't tell me, but some people told me, yeah, we know her, she's a big shot. So she was traveling here, and I didn't meet her, and but she found my book in one of the shops. And she found it interesting enough to buy it, so she bought it. She was curious, and she loved the book. But being this woman, she was also extremely communicative. She will talk to everybody, she will meet everybody going there, and being, a personality, then she will meet all this, director of Alliance Française, the Institute of, all this, the lycée, the this, the that. So, and she started to talk to everybody about my book and said, oh, you have to read this book, it's incredible, I loved it so much. She was praising it, and she wanted to meet me, so we became friends, and all that, and she did advertisement for me. It's like,
wow.
And everybody started to read my
Knowing
books.
about it.
Because the problem is, when you're a painter, you show a painting, in 1 second you know whether you like it or not.
Yes.
But you see a good book and a bad book, when you look at it, it looks the same. You need to spend days to see what is inside.
Exactly.
No, so you have so many books, published in the world. It's one day I went to this mega huge university library in France, in Strasbourg. It was on 5 floors only, books. It was like Babel Tower. It was incredible. Or the Library of Alexandria. So if you put one book in the middle of it, who will see it? But if somebody who is a figure, that she is recognized for her work and everything, read this book, people will do. And before, it used to be like this, how to say, Stendhal was launched by Balzac, Giono was launched by Gide, always the new writer will be launched by the recognized writer. Now it doesn't exist anymore. They have no time. Now everybody's writing. They cannot read, before they will receive 2 books a year or maybe 1 book a month. Now they receive, a big publisher in France, he receives 40 books a day.
Oh.
How can you do? So you need someone like that, and she was my chance for that matter.
Wow.
Everybody started to read, and everybody came, to congratulate me. Even sometimes people I've never met, even sometimes people stop me in the street. My God, I read your book. I want to thank you. It has changed my life. I was hearing this kind of thing. One person told me, you saved my life.
Oh.
I was so distressed,
It's so much connected.
Yeah.
To the story. To your story.
Yeah, but there is also in the how to say underground there is a spiritual kind of I don't know philosophy or philosophy in the real sense, not visible. It's not teaching philosophy, but there is philosophy going underground, like these rivers, going underground, and this is how we can get water from the ground, but we don't see the water. Even I found it really funny. Even a very good friend of mine who knew I was writing, and after years, they come and they say, "Oh my God, I read your book. We loved it so much. I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't stop reading and all." So yeah, so it does that. That's what they say. So I said, okay, but we are friends since years, and I'm writing, and you never read it, and now you're reading. Why? Is because everybody's talking about your books now. So we at that time, so many people write, and we didn't think it was good, to be honest. And hearing that everybody, okay, we said we'll try, and we love it. So that's and also that woman, she told me that she will after that she contacted me and she said that they are studying it in French literature class in the University of Vancouver. I have a friend also who contacted me. He said, we became friends. He was an American but teaching in university in Australia. He said now it is taught in the university, your book in French literature also class. Then he moved to New Zealand and he gave the book. He said it's also now taught. I don't know if it's still the case. It was some time ago, but he told me. And then somebody contacted me from England also telling me, and from US telling me, your book now is studied in literature class in England and US. So yeah, it was incredible, because at the beginning I was really doubting, what shall I do, like 2-3 books a month, what can you do, we need to eat, Okay. But after that, I understood, it's just a matter of somebody should love enough your book to talk about it, somebody who has an audience.
Yes.
That's the only thing you need, basically.
Exactly.
And if your work is genuine, then it will click.
Yes.
But to meet this person, you cannot decide to meet this person, especially in today's world, because people have no time.
Yeah.
They are all on internet. They receive 200 mails a day. They cannot even reply the mail. Forget about reading a book. And who will tell them that no, it's worth reading it and all. So, but you just need one person, and it's like the spark will ignite the barrel.
Mouth, it's spread.
Yeah,
that is a real advertisement, real marketing. Person to person.
It should be like that also. Not you pay someone to say it's good and the guy doesn't know what it is, whether it's perfume or, oh, I love this thing so much, and they never, this biscuit is great, and he never had it, and but no, it should be someone who really found it by chance, you didn't pay him or you didn't ask him, but he found it by chance, and boom, it will.
Great experience.
Yeah, that was
Fred,
great and very helpful, extremely helpful.
Yeah. Are you working at the moment? A new project, a new story?
I'm writing on 3 different one, and it's going on.
Good.
One I have already 100 pages. One I have 50 pages. and then the third one is this one.
Oh. Yes. Wow.
Here. So this is what I've been already typed. You see, it's 315 pages, and more or less, because when I type, I expand a little bit. So one page is one page of a book.
One page. Okay.
And totally, you see, it goes to this one goes to 850, something like that. And then after I have 50, the last 100 pages, I have it in notes. And when everything will be finished, then I will mold the conclusion. I will carve the conclusion.
Very nice, very nice. Good.
So it is still there. For years, it was in the forest, in the jungle, you know, in a wooden box for some years. I didn't touch. And then I thought, okay, maybe now it will make sense to finish it.
Yeah, the time has come.
Because the time has come, the situation has changed, and the public also has changed.
Okay.
At that time, you know, everything was bearable. But in today's world, it's so difficult for the people that, how to say, you know, they want something else. At that time, they wanted to be entertained, and they need a book is also entertaining. But you know, it's like if you the difference between, you know, smelling good food and eating good food. You know, it has to have something solid inside also.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
As you are a writer, you want to say anything to the young writers who want to write books, novels, and stories?
Yes, actually, definitely, because a lot of people tell me I always wanted to write, but I'm scared to start. So what I want to say is, it's what I tell them. It's, why are you scared? Because a writer, it's a monk job. You stay alone until it's finished. You don't show your work until it's finished. It's not good, you know. It's like you don't open the egg before the bird is before it hatches naturally. Before the bird is ready. That is. What I tell them usually is that, what do you risk? You just throw it on paper, and then if you think it's not good, you burn it. You don't even need, nobody will know. Nobody has to know. When you think it's really good what you did, maybe you will write, you know, let's say poetry, you write 10 poems. Out of that, one you think is good. Throw the rest. Burn it if you don't like. If you're ashamed, you don't want anybody, you burn it. It's so easy. But what is good, you keep it. And you can show to some people, you know, who can give a good, how to say, feedback. And this is it. If you start, you know, it's coming from inside. So if you want to do it, that means something is pushing. So just throw it on the paper, right? And after that, it doesn't mean that you will become a writer. It doesn't mean that it will be good, but at least you tried. You have a chance. It may be good. It might be good. So try. Because if you don't do it, then that's for sure it will never happen. And it will always be inside, and it's not good to keep something inside. So just, you know, go. It doesn't matter if it's not good. Nobody will know. Not even, you know, my wife, you know, my children, my mother, if I don't want them to know, I will not show it. Nobody will know. So I think that's the only valuable advice. After all the rest, it's a matter, you know, one will have this method, one will have this method, one will do like this. When I'm talking about, you know, making a plan or not, everybody will have his own, like, I'm taking Victor Hugo, he was making plan. That's not my method, but he's a great writer. You know, I don't know if I can compare my work with, that's not up to me to say. I would say I still have to work to be compared to Victor Hugo, you know, but that's his method. And you know, some people will write fantasy, some people will write real story, real life, some people will write some science fiction. There are no rules. But if you want to do it, do it. There is no risk. If you want, for instance, you want to do a movie, you need a lot of money to try.
Yes.
Right? You need to buy the camera, you need to, all that, you know very
artist,
well.
Yeah.
If you want to write, you need paper, okay? How much is one RAM of 500 pages? It will be like, 80 rupees. And you need a pen, a common pen. That's my pen. So this one was 1,000 rupees. But I have it since 20 years.
Oh.
But you buy a pen for, 10 rupees, 5 rupees, and you go, and you start. That's all. You need less than 100 rupees, you can start. And then you will know if it's you want to do it because you are a writer in the soul, or whether it was just a fantasy because you like books and you said, okay, me too, I can try. But you will know. So no hesitation. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. Yeah, it gives a lot of inspiration when youths and people view this interview.
Yeah.
They will get this message from
I'm thinking even in music, in music, if you want to do music, you need to learn.
Yeah.
But writing, if you know how to write, and we learned this in school in the youngest age, you need nothing. Paper and pen, that's all.
And alone.
Yeah.
Just be alone and write.
Yeah, and of course at the beginning you do it after the work and etc. And then if you sell well and you're successful, then you can quit your job and do that only. It happens.
It happens, yeah. Many people.
Not many, but it happens.
A few. Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. Especially we live in a world where people don't read anymore like it used to be. Now everybody is watching movies, videos, series, and etc. But I saw in my city when I was there some 35 years ago, we had maybe 15 or 20 bookshops, Now there is only one and it's collapsing.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we have to move on time, like books and then maybe digital upload.
Digital. There is the audiobook. I'm now working on your audiobooks with artist friend because I don't think I have a good voice enough to do the reading, but she has a very beautiful voice and the sensitivity. She's a great artist. You know her, Chantal. She's a painter. So I asked her if she would be, and she likes the project. She wants to do it to record audiobooks.
That's great because move on time, the modern time.
Yeah.
Like, digitalization.
Yeah, and also there is one thing also which is important is a lot of movies are coming from books. So if you write a good book, there is always a chance that your movie one day one director will say, I want to make a movie with your books. That can happen. These things happen sometimes.
Nice.
There is this guy, he wrote a book and he started to publish on, I don't know what platform, but he was publishing one page every week or something like that. And it became, people were, it was free, but he took this challenge that I will give it for free, like this, up to a certain level. But people, they cannot wait 1 week to read the next page, so they started to buy the book and it became a good sale. And finally, Ridley Scott, Ridley Scott, he approached him, he said, I want to make a movie with your book, and he made the movie.
Wow.
It's called The Martian, I think. The Martian. That's the story behind this movie. It was just one guy who, he said, okay, I want to write, he did, and boom, you never know.
Yeah. Here in Tamil industry, a director called Vetri Maran, he specially make his movie from novel. All success.
Yeah.
Likes.
Yeah, because I really believe that behind every movie there is a good novel,
Yes.
or there is a script which has been written as a novel. Like for instance, going back to Ridley Scott, Gladiator. You had 4 scriptwriters who one wrote and one wrote the dialogues, then one put another dimension into it, and then a woman, she said something is missing. This movie will be for men but not for women. So she brought one idea, they reworked it, and finally you have a masterpiece. but they spent on the script only, I think, 1.5 years or something like that, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's major to have a good script. I don't think it's possible to make a movie without a good script.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even now, a veteran director, Mani Ratnam, one of our famous director in India. He is also making a movie from novel. A very famous writer named Kalki.
Okay.
So his novel is Ponniyin Selvan. It's a more multicasting he's making. So yeah, from the novel, directors making movie.
Yeah, and we have so many material, you know, in novels. Everything is there. You know, you can use a classic, you can use a modern book, you can, you know. Not all the good books have been shot into movies. Unfortunately, it's difficult because a lot of movies, when you read the book, you know, you'll be like, the movie is really not up to the mark. But some are not.
Yeah.
Really, I could feel over the years how the amount of people who are reading books came down. Now you have Netflix, you know, Netflix was a major crash for the writers, you know. But what to do? We have to live with it. But it's in this today's situation, it's hard. It's not easy. Yeah, but you know, okay, me, I'm not complaining. I could manage. I've been lucky. But I know I have friend artists, you know, writers and others who are really struggling enormously. And what I'm trying to do currently also is to bring my artist friends together to, you know, do project together. Stronger, you know, alone we are, it's more difficult.
Okay.
So I'm trying that, and it's going somewhere slowly, you know. At the beginning they didn't want to hear about that because every artist thinks that, you know. But slowly, and it's not like, for instance, me, I've been approached by people who wanted to write a book with me, but no, I don't think I don't think it's, I'm not talking about novel literature. I'm not talking about essay, you know, where you need to do a lot of research, etc., general knowledge, you name it. That, yes, you can have a teamwork. But for books, no. But for music, you need, you know, most of the time people need different musicians. For movies, of course,
cameraman,
scene, you know, show, theater,
all group of people.
Musical, all these things. And I have a friend who, for instance, in musical, I have a friend who is the second mentalist in the world. He's in Paris, very, very good friend. And I asked him at one point, you know, during the confinement and all, you know, everything was closed. They were starving, you know, all these people, artists and all, have been maybe the one who lost the most, you know, during this thing, because it's really nothing happened, you know. Of course, you need the public. So I told him, why don't you join together? You know everybody, all the artist scene in Paris, you know them, and why don't you join together, you know, to do something, and blah blah. He said, you have no idea, they don't want to hear about that. Everybody is crying in his corner, but they don't want to have nothing to do with the others, and it's very difficult. But now I feel that the lines are moving, something is changing. You know, the people, the situation becomes so dramatic, you know, at all level in our world today, that people, I really feel that they more and more they understand the value of society, real society, you know, in the original sense, that we are human beings living together and let's help each other. You know, like for instance, if I have chicken and somebody come to do a plumbery work and I give him eggs, and you know, this kind of thing, you know, money doesn't need to be involved. If we are struggling, we can find a way. Or I'm a carpenter, you're an electrician, you repair my electricity, I'll make a table for you, you know what you need, this, you know, like that. And I hope it will go on. And also one thing I believe in, what is very positive in the chaotic situation we are currently, is that people, they forget a little bit about materialism and money, and I want to become rich and this, that, etc. And they are they are turning themselves more towards spiritual values. Why are we here? What is the goal of life, the purpose of life? What is life in the first place, etc., etc. And that's a very good thing. It makes me very optimistic. And also all over the world, and for that I would say thanks to India, because you have been the avant-garde of this. But all over the world I see that, I'm not talking about the wars, but I'm talking about societies, and when in a country people go in the street, they cannot take it anymore, etc. But it's not violent. You have violent people, but altogether the majority of the crowd worldwide today, they understand that violence is neither an issue, neither a solution, neither a way of action. And we need to be somehow we are realizing that it's not even really the point is not really to fight a system who is oppressing the people, because the system is currently collapsing by itself, because it came to the end of its contradictions. But it's, on the contrary, forget about that and let us join together and work together, and be a real society in the real sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and energy and creativity. Thank you so much
you're a great
for your
interview.
sharing your experience and about writing and all. So it will be very useful to the young generation and the viewers who watch your interview. From this interview, many people will inspire. I got inspired and I learned today. Thank you so much.
I hope it will be like a seed. It will have flowers after and fruits.
Yes, sure. And best wishes for your future projects.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.